live? We're good. Call to order the Avon Town Council meeting for November 17th, 2022. Please rise, join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Julie, would you mind taking roll call, please?
Greg Zuzen.
Present.
Don Loudon.
Present.
Robert Pope.
Present.
Aaron Tivabal. Steve Eisenbarth.
We still have a quorum. Next item on the agenda is the consent to include minutes from 3 previous meetings. We did update the meeting, the agenda with the correct meeting minutes.
October 22nd.
October 20th.
I sent those out to you this afternoon.
Yes. Just want to make sure we've got, yes. My only, no further questions or discussion. Would anyone like to make a motion?
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
A second.
We have a first and second. Julie, call please.
Don Loudon.
4.
Greg Zuzen.
4.
Robert Pope.
4. Next item on the agenda is the first of 2 public opportunity to comment on items on the agenda that are not a public hearing or on a specific matter within the jurisdiction. Please come forward to the microphone, state your address, and limit your time to 3 minutes. Big rush. We'll close that section of public comment and move on to council comment liaison reports. Ms. Loudon.
I'd just like to thank everyone in the community that came out and exercised their right to vote. We appreciate or I personally appreciate the confidence in the reelection, and I'm here and I'm ready to work for everyone again for another 4 years. Thank you. Want to also take a moment and tell everyone that I hope they have a good and safe Thanksgiving and enjoy time with their family.
Mr. Zuzen.
I have nothing.
Oh boy. So I attended the Raising Cane's grand opening, and it was definitely grand. They had a line for people waiting and made donations to our local YMCA and Avon High School cheerleaders. Just a big thank you to them and welcome to our community. At the HRH luncheon, we learned it was earlier this week, pardon me, learned about their partnership with the Mayo Clinic and how our community has access to such a fantastic and specialized medical knowledge right in our backyard. And then last week's religious leaders meeting with the school corporation shared some interesting information about our student population. Our school system has 1,045 multilingual students, formerly called ESL students. It's nearly double the number of multilingual students in the rest of the county combined. Only Wayne, Pike, and Hamilton Southeastern have more in the central Indiana area. And I want to reiterate what Ms. Loudon said. Everyone have a safe, happy Thanksgiving. Moving on, next item, Bill 3. Mr. King.
I guess first off, I want to lead off and apologize. I know this information just got to you guys today. So on behalf of Highland and myself, I apologize for not getting that to you guys sooner. Also, Jeff Sullivan, our agent, is sick with COVID, and so he's not here tonight. He also said he apologizes for not being here. As normal, our policy expires at the end of November, so this is our renewal. Unfortunately, it's not a great renewal. Our premium last year was $208,000, and this year it's going to be $295,000. I turn you to page 4 of your guys' packet. Really gives you the best information. Our liability coverage really it mostly lies in 3 areas. Our property and casualty, which went up about $26,000 and some change. Most of that increase was an increase in our exposure, as well as the addition of 7 police officers, additional full-time staff for the town as well. Also, the value of some of our equipment went up, and that's probably a result of buying some new police or things like that we've added to our fleet. So that does increase the amount of our coverage. The other one then is workers' comp. Our performance mod was really bad last year. So It went from 1.69 to 2.16, and 1.69 was poor. And so most of that loss was a result of a single incident that we had. Unfortunately, it's kind of a rolling 3-year system. So this is the most substantial increases in our workers' comp. It went about $55,000 as a result of that. I will share that we did also have a substantial increase in our payroll. So that also drives our workers' comp. The value of our payroll is really what determines it. And we had a 19% increase in our total payroll. So that was a substantial amount. We've had a really good working relationship with IPEP. And so IPEP did continue to give us a 25% credit and left that in place. Highland did ask me to share that we're very fortunate actually that IPEP agreed to continue covering us, because most times if a municipality had a 2.16 mod, they would just refuse coverage. So although it's going up substantially, it is positive that they agreed to continue covering us. And workers' comp has been good, and Sean helped us out last year. We did have a meeting, and Highland suggested we do some of that again and even have them come do some training, just to kind of reinforce to IPEP that we take safety seriously and we're trying to address those issues, and that the issues that we have are one-time incidents. It's not a failure of our policy or anything like that. So we will keep working with Highland to try to address some of those issues. And then the last one is our cyber liability. And I know you guys are all aware of this. Our coverage went up about 30% for our cyber coverage. That was actually a reduction. It was going to go up almost 100%. And so that's actually good that we were able to negotiate that down a little bit. We would stay with Travelers, which is our current carrier. The thing that's driving that up is that we did have the breach 2 years ago. And so they were doubling everybody's price who had a breach in the last 5 years. So again, I think Highland worked on our behalf to try to bring that amount down at least. So we were able to negotiate down some of these, but again, it is a fairly substantial increase. Liability insurance is always a little funny because we're paying for our coverage for next year, so to budget. And so we did not budget us enough money to be able to cover that whole cost. So I did look at a couple of items. I think the two areas that will make up the difference for the overage is we have some underspending in food and beverage. And so we would probably take a good chunk out of food and beverage to help pay for that. And then the additional difference we would probably try to take out of edit. We have some underspending in edit as well. So that's the source of funding that I would use to pay the difference in the premium increase. I'm happy to answer any questions.
To show when we subrogate our rights to them and they win the case, where's the credit? Where does that show up? How do we know we're getting reimbursed or we're getting a credit back?
Yeah, I think you guys asked for a report on that last time, and I think he did provide us one at that time. I didn't request another. Normally that shows up in our loss to premium ratio that they calculate. And so in the last 5 years, the premium we paid was $829,000 and our loss was $717,000. So that subrogation, it reduces that number. If we're reimbursed for whatever that loss is, then it reduces our loss number. So,
Well, if they can put together a report to kind of show us how this all flows, because right now our representative doesn't even know.
you can have them do that.
Any further questions or discussion for Ryan?
No.
Would either of you like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we accept the insurance renewal for 2023 by Highland as presented.
Can I get one clarification from you guys? So on page 4, so you guys are approving the $295,000 $31 and no cents. Can you guys also, you guys have done this in the past, we have waived the terrorism coverage. And so you see they did give us an additional premium if we wanted to include the terrorism coverage, which is $1,443. I think our recommendation is the same in the past, that that coverage isn't necessary. And so we would say, again, we'd like to reject that. So if you could include that in your motion, I'd appreciate it. Or if you want to include it, let me know.
Okay, I'll amend the motion to include the amount of $295,031 specifically for the premium summary, and if there is no discussion or amongst the
That's
three of
what
us.
I was just going to open that up. Is there any discussion about the terrorism? Again, we passed on it last year. I think the discussion was, I don't think we saw a need for it, but we're here this year. Perhaps we have a new need. Not seeing any change.
And to go ahead and reject the additional premium for the terrorism of $1,443. Is that convoluted enough for everyone?
Perfect. Thank you.
I'll second it, but again, say that not happy with their responsiveness because they always have us over the barrel, and our next meeting's not till December 1st, and this expires November 30th.
We have a first and a second. Julie, would you take a roll call vote, please?
Susan,
4.
Don Loudon,
Or,
Robert Pope.
4. Next item on the agenda, public hearing and final reading of ordinance 2022-32, additional appropriations. Ryan, do you want to speak to that first?
Yeah, so I know this has been on a couple of you guys introduced it, and then we asked you to table it off of your last agenda. And you do have to hold a public hearing first, but this additional appropriation in general, just for the public, if we want to add funding to the budget, we have to do an additional appropriation. Additional appropriation is basically authorization for us to spend money. Most of the additional appropriations that we're asking for here are actually a result of grants that the town has received. And so when we do that, we actually have to allocate the money from that grant to be able to spend. In this situation, I think the only two that were not that situation were police department, cost for fuel for the police, and for the town, we added some additional funding in there to cover the expense of those two. And then there was an overpayment on our bond, which also allocated for an additional. Again, we spent the money, we actually got a refund of it, but then it actually makes it look like we're in the negative. So we want to appropriate that back so it eliminates the negative. So it's really just clearing up a negative in the accounting books. Julie and I are happy to answer any questions. You do need to have a public hearing.
Any questions for staff before?
The way you've got it set up, so you got like 2 boxes. The first one's coming out of general fund and the next set is coming out of the edit fund.
Exactly, correct.
No further questions. We will at 7:13. Open the public hearing on 2 additional per one. Please come forward, state your name, address, and please limit your time to 3 minutes. Seeing no one come forward, we will close the public hearing. If no further discussion, would anyone want to?
I make a motion, we approve ordinance 2022-32, the additional appropriation as presented.
second,
We have a first and a second. Julie, roll call vote, please.
Robert Pope,
4.
Don Loudon,
or,
Greg Susan.
4.
Next item on the agenda, introduction ordinance 2022-36. Court, you'll speak, Mr. Taylor.
Yes, this ordinance would abolish your town court and make conforming changes to your code in all the places where the town court is mentioned. As you know, you get, there's a window every 4 years. The year before a municipal election, you have the opportunity, like all towns, to review your town courts and decide whether to keep them or to abolish them. Get this shot once every 4 years. And so your window will close December 1st. This ordinance would abolish the town court. If it passes, then the court will go 1 more year to December 31st of 2023, and then close. If the ordinance is not approved, then the court will just go on. And then 2026 will be the next opportunity to take a look at whether you want to abolish it or not. And so that's what this is just introduction, but you will need to take action on this. If you want to abolish it, you'll need to take that action this calendar year.
Open up to questions for Mr. Taylor or staff.
My concern is we're talking about a government center out in Easton Gray, and you're going to have a court, and we're going to have a town, move the town offices there, and we may have the township there, we may have the schools there. And if we're going to build this thing and we're not going to have a court, then why are we building it, I guess? I think there's value to the town court. I think the town court needs to be restructured. And so between now and the final reading, if we can talk about that and try to figure out a way. I know that the last time we had the judge in and he provided us some documentation, which I have. Well, the revenue that is shown here, they do make a profit. But when you take out the revenue that goes to the state and goes to the county, we still have all the expense that we show loss. So I think what we need to do is just try to go back and see how we can restructure this to either get this to a break even or to minimize that loss. I mean, the other thing is he indicated in his numbers that we don't have misdemeanor hearings. Well, maybe the question is why not? And if we did that, how much additional revenue would that generate to offset our expense? Because I think a lot of our expense is the fixed cost here. So, I know it's the first reading, but those are my concerns with it. And I think if we could have a work session on the first continued conversation before we bring it to reading, that's my comments.
I really don't have anything to add to that, other than I know this is something that we talked about when the previous judge was retiring. And, we had those work sessions when we were doing budgets and looked at it and kept seeing how much in the red we operated in and things like that. Decided to keep going forward. And now here we are again having the same conversation. So I don't know what the answers necessarily are, but I'm not opposed to Greg's decision to at least discuss it again before the final decision.
Remind me again what that expense, if I remember, it's after all the revenue comes into us, we're spending $5,000 a year.
According to what he provided us at 2020, it was 57,244 loss. In 2021, it was 56,567 loss. And year to date, and it looks like this was, I think, like August or September, it was 26,144 loss. So we probably need updated information and then determine how we can restructure it to shrink that number down. The flip side of that is maybe the revenue increased, but we don't know that. And when you go back and look at your filings historically, I take out COVID, and I think it has shrunk too. So, and then, like I said, if we can do misdemeanors, then why aren't we doing misdemeanors?
Well, I think too, though, when he was here, when I'm saying he, I'm talking about our town judge for those that are in the audience. But here, volume to bring up revenue, that would also require additional expense in personnel and more of his time in the court as well. So yes, we could maybe look at the misdemeanor, but then we also have the added expense of additional personnel and plus his particular time as well. So I don't know that it just balances out or that we can just increase one without the other based on what he explained.
Well, just remember the we can't control whether misdemeanor cases are filed here or in what volume. That's the prosecutor's decision, and there are special rules that have to be followed. So that's not going to be something we can control. The prosecutor, the judge could have a conversation with the prosecutor, but that's a prosecutor decision. The prosecutor decides in what courts they will file. And I think there have been conversations in the past about this. I don't know how recently it's been discussed, but so Greg, if that's information that you want, then we probably need to tell the judge and ask him to be ready to provide that information. But just remember that's something neither the judge nor the town council really controls. We can encourage it, but still up to the county prosecutor.
Let me ask you a question. If we abolish this 4 years from now, do we petition ourselves, or I don't know what the process is, to reinstate it?
Mm-hmm.
Is it a very difficult thing to do?
It's not. It's actually just about like abolishing it. You just pass an ordinance saying it exists again, and then you'd have to fill a position for the court bailiff and probably have to fire up the court software again. But it's really not difficult. You do it by ordinance, just like you take it out, just like you bring it in.
We would also have to budget for it the year before to make sure that we had the budget for it.
Just to answer Robert's question earlier, I'm not sure it was meant to revenue. It's there to serve justice. And even my predecessor has always said, it always runs in the red. I don't believe it will ever be a revenue maker for us. It always runs in the red.
Nor
And
should it be.
I agree with that. And I think we just need to understand how far in the red do we want to be?
Yeah.
Is it 25,000? Is it 50,000? Is it 100,000? I'm okay with that. But
Well, we do have a work session. I think Ryan will tell you before our next meeting.
Yep.
So
Any further discussion on this issue? All right. Let's introduce ordinance 2022-36, abolishing the town court as introduced. Moving on, next item on the agenda, introduction ordinance 2022-37, the 2023 holidays. I assume you're speaking to this one, right?
Yes, every year the town council has to establish the holidays for the next coming year. So this is the proposed calendar for the 2023 holidays. As I mentioned in my memo to the council, we had 13 this year and we're proposing 13 next year. We basically kept across all the same holidays, just updated it with new dates and days. Happy to answer any questions.
my only question, we don't have January 1st on here. Is there a reason why?
If I
Because
recall,
it's the first and doesn't it?
New
roll
Year's
over to the
Eve
next
is a
day?
Saturday and New Year's Day is the 1st. So Monday is actually January 2nd. And so that's why it's been moved elsewhere. But it'll show.
So that's why you moved it then to July 5th to show the 4th and the 5th as the two holidays?
Correct. Yep.
That's where your January 2nd day is?
Basically, yep.
Okay. Those are my two questions.
Any further discussion or questions? Let the record show ordinance 2022-37, the 2023 holidays is introduced. Next item on the agenda, introduction of ordinance 2022-38, the 2023 salary ordinance. I assume this is you as well, Mr. Cannon.
Yes, I'll introduce this. Every year that it's the town council's responsibility to establish salaries, wages, and benefits for the employees of the town. And so the salary ordinance is basically what establishes that. This is relatively the same as last year. There were a couple, if you guys recall, there were a couple amendments. You did add some benefits, the Heroes Honor benefit. So we did carry that information over into this. So you don't have to amend that for next year. And then Exhibit A establishes what the maximum salaries are for all the positions. These are all reflected, publicly approved in the budget. They are maximum salaries. It doesn't mean that everyone will make what's on there. That's the maximum of what you can pay for those positions. Most of the departments, they make the determination of what their employees make. They just can't make more than what the town council establishes here in this ordinance. I think any new positions or anything that was added were discussions we had during the budget. So happy to answer any questions if you guys have any.
Any questions for staff?
No.
Nope. All right. Ordinance 2022-380, 2023 salary ordinance is introduced. Next item on the agenda, legal counsel report. Mr. Taylor. Excellent. Next item on the agenda, the second of 2 public comment opportunities. Please come forward to the microphone, state your name and address, and limit your time to 3 minutes. Again, no rush to the microphone. Close that section of public comment. Next opportunity.
Just remind everyone that the Christmas tree lighting at Town Hall is December 3rd. I think at 6 o'clock. Okay.
Next item on the agenda, council calendar. Mr. Cannon.
Yes, happy Thanksgiving to everyone. Just a reminder, the town hall is closed next week on Thursday and Friday. And then the town council's next meeting is December 1st. We do have a work session at 5:30. I apologize, it's your last work session of the year. I'm sure you guys will weep about that. And then you have your regular meeting at 7 p.m.
Excellent. Meeting adjourned.